DOJ seeks the longest Capitol riot prison term yet, 17 years for eye-gouging ex-NYPD officer who swung a flagpole at police. Wow, that's a lot of time. Federal prosecutors are seeking the longest sentence yet for a Capitol rioter, asking the judge to give a former NYPD officer 210 months, 17 and a half years in prison. Wow. Thomas Webster was found guilty in all 6 charges in May, including assaulting an officer and entering restricted grounds. His sentence is set for September 1st. In a statement arguing for a shorter sentence, Webster's lawyer said that he had been under an extraordinary amount of influence from former President Donald Trump elections falsehood on January 6. This is the equivalent of the devil made me do it, you know. The criminal complaint describes Webster elbowing his way through the mob to be among those leading the charge against the Capitol Police barricades, shouting at one time, "You effing piece of shit, you effing coming." Wow. So, Webster also wielded a metal flagpole at the riot. The DOJ later released body camera footage of him repeatedly hitting the metal barrier next to the officer with it until it broke. Wow, if you can break metal, you can imagine the amount of force, to break metal. The footage then shows him tackling the officer to the ground and appearing to gouge the officer's eyes. Wow, my goodness. And then Twitter. The jury rejected Webster's argument at trial that he acted in self-defense. Yeah, right. You come dressed in combat and you acted in self-defense. Webster's status as a former member of law enforcement, he had served as part of former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg's security detail, was at odds with his conduct toward the Capitol Police. His defense conceded in court documents seen by Insider. Nonetheless, lawyer James Monroe asked the judge to consider a shorter sentence on the grounds of Webster's later remorse and the notion that former President Donald Trump misled him. Well, Trump is still claiming he won the election, and many people still agree with him. Election fraud lies championed by former President Donald Trump exerted an extraordinary amount of influence over people like Webster, who have received relentless disinformation from Trump supporters, Monroe said. That's a poor excuse, by the way. Now that Webster understands the election was fair, we really think so? He is deeply ashamed and remorseful, said the lawyer. Yeah, I'll be ashamed and remorseful too if I'm facing 17 and a half years in prison. Could you imagine that? He'd be old when he gets out. Citing poet Paul Eldridge, Monroe said that judging Webster's character only on his January 6 crimes is like judging the sea by a jug full of its water. Yeah, nice. He presented numerous documents attesting to Webster's years of good service and letters from friends and family describing him in terms such as a person of strong faith, integrity, and moral values. That 17 years and 6 months recommended by the DOJ stretches far beyond the longest sentence handed down to Capitol rioters so far. More than 7 years given to writer Guy Reffitt. In that case, prosecutors sought a much longer sentence of 15 years, closer to what is being asked for Webster. This is interesting, so many people, especially like in law enforcement background, former cops and so forth. There's another one here too. Former cop turned Capitol rioter Thomas Robinson was sentenced to more than 7 years in prison. You know, and the sad thing is that all these people are doing hard time in prison. I mean, this guy, Thomas Robinson, sentenced to 7 years in prison, you know? And Trump is as free as a bird, going around still spreading the same big lie, like they call it, the big lie, like the Nazis used to do in Germany, you know, when Hitler used to spread the big lie. That's where Trump learned his propaganda from, reading Mein Kampf and the big lie. He learned that if you repeat something enough over and over and over again and it's a lie, if you say it enough times, people will begin to believe it. They will accept it as true. And that's the big lie, straight out of Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany, you see. And unfortunately, you have all these people with backgrounds like former police officer, former fireman, all these people who should know better, who used to work for the government, find themselves caught up, you know, attacking the Capitol building, which should be like a citadel for democracy. And they have no respect whatsoever for the law. And they just believe in Donald Trump. So yeah, this guy is probably going to get 17 years, I don't know, maybe the judge will feel sorry for him and drop it down to 15 years or a little less in prison. But still, that's a lot of time. That's more time these guys getting than for like some of the incidents they get in, like shooting people, you know, unarmed people, these cops. When they work as police officers, some of the things they do, if they get any jail time, it's usually very little time. And here they are getting all these years in prison for doing less things than they did while they were on the job.